All right, welcome back, everyone. It is currently 7:40 p.m. Central Time, Thursday, October 13th. I got my West Virginia gear on. They're in the middle of a game. It's not going all that well. Shocker, because they're terrible. But I shouldn't say. No, they're terrible. Don't get me wrong. But it's not. I say it's not going all that well. It's a one-score game at halftime. I don't feel good about it. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. Although I will say, I enjoy my mug. This is beers kind of 2 and 3. I already put 2 in here earlier, downed it to about here before starting podcasting. Then I put the third beer in. So I will be taking sips of this throughout the evening. All right, so let's talk some football. Going to recap a little bit of last week here in the NFL and for college football. The last Thursday night game, Colts-Broncos, really ugly game. Went to overtime. The Colts won 12-9. Not a good game. The Broncos had a chance to win a couple times at the end of regulation, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not at the end of regulation, but toward the end of the game. Broncos had the ball inside the 20 or something. Russell Wilson throws a pick. Then they have the ball in overtime at the goal line, come up short on fourth down instead of kicking it, which I don't really have a problem with because I despise ties. But Denver, not a good team right now. Russell Wilson doesn't look like himself, and the injuries are piling up. Javonte Williams is out for the year. I think Garrett Bowles is out for the year. That's just not where you want to be right now for a team that really is struggling on the offensive side of the ball. Nathaniel Hackett. I like Nathaniel Hackett because he used to be in Green Bay. He did good things with the Packers, but it ain't looking good in Denver. And if this continues, I think he's going to be out of there. I don't think they're going to tolerate this for the whole year. Although I will say it gives me, like I said last week, gives me a little bit of joy watching the Broncos struggle. I don't... Outside of a handful of teams like the Vikings and the Cowboys and the Bears, the Lions I don't really care about, but outside of those 3 teams, I don't really cheer against anyone, but it does bring me some joy to watch the Broncos struggle after the last year and a half of them saying how great they were. All they needed was a quarterback, and I said, I'm not so sure about that, and what do you know? I'm right. So Broncos, just not a good spot. And I don't know how you're going to fix it because injuries are piling up. Russell Wilson doesn't look good. I would rely on the run, but Melvin Gordon can't keep the ball. So I don't know where you go from here. Denver's offense doesn't have an identity, and that's a major problem. Indianapolis, they're not any good either. Matt Ryan really struggled in that game. What were his numbers? 26 of 41, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Not a good day from him at all. Just a horrible. It wasn't even good defense. I forget who I talked to. I was like, this is good defense. Like, no, it's not. This is bad offense. So one of the worst Thursday night games I've ever seen. And I say that with Washington and Chicago playing right now, where it is currently 0-0 after the first quarter. And I'm not watching the game, but I saw at one point on Twitter that Carson Wentz and Justin Fields' numbers were something like -11 passing yards and -8 passing yards. So really bad game going on right now. I don't know which. I'd rather just not. My mom texted me earlier this week and asked me, what are you going to do Thursday night for West Virginia's game against Baylor? And I said, shit, I forgot we play this week. I was really looking forward to just not watching football at all. And just watching, something I'd never watched before. Like, I started Peaky Blinders, I think, last week. And, didn't really get a good sense of what it was. Mostly because I was working on other stuff, not really giving it my full attention. But I was hoping to start that back up again. And I'm like, shit, I'm going to have to watch West Virginia again, aren't I? So, just not good football right now. Sunday morning, I guess you could say. Giants, Packers in London. Someone might have to talk me off the ledge. Well, I shouldn't say that. I was pissed about the result of this game for about an hour, and I got over it. James, I talked to James this week. James was even like, dude, I think you're overreacting. But Green Bay's not a good team. They're better than Denver, although I think a lot of teams are better than Denver right now. But Green Bay is not a good team right now. They don't stay within the offense. When they stay within the offense, Green Bay is a whole lot better. Sunday morning, they were not. They got outside the offense. They quit running the ball. Aaron Rodgers decided to throw the ball. You do not have the personnel to do that anymore. Run the damn ball, Matt. Aaron, run the damn ball. You had it at 3rd and 1 against the Giants. Excuse me. You had 3rd and 1 inside the red zone with about 40, maybe a minute left, 40 seconds left on the clock, and you had a timeout or two. Run the fucking ball. Like I'm such a run the damn ball guy to the point of annoyance. Like I'm sure family members are even like, dude, it's becoming a passing league. But I'm still like, no, run the fucking ball. And they won't do it. In this game, let me pull it up. In this game, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon had a combined 19 carries. Aaron Jones ran the ball 13 times for 63 yards. A.J. Dillon ran the ball 6 times for 34 yards. Not bad numbers. Not bad numbers. I don't know why we quit running the ball. I don't understand it. In the second half alone, let me see how many times Green Bay ran the ball in the second half. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times. They ran 8 times on 7, 10, 24. We'll call it 24 plays. Last play of the game didn't really count. 24 plays. You ran it 8 times in 24 plays. That's ridiculous. You shouldn't be throwing the ball 2 out of 3 times. If you're Green Bay, you don't have the personnel for that. And I think that's a reflection of coaching. So, Matt, Aaron, whoever else, stay within your offense. Your offense is predicated on running the ball and the play-action pass. Do it. Let's move on. The Giants. I still don't really know what to make of the Giants. They are 4-1, and I give a lot of credit to Brian Daboll. Their wins have come against, I don't even know now. Shit. Tennessee. A Tennessee team that started slow. Then they beat Carolina at home. I don't even remember who their third win was. Let me pull it up. They beat the Bears at home, and then they beat the Packers. So the Packers raised his eyebrows, but it is in London. Those games are weird. But I will say, the Giants are clearly here to stay. Now, can they maintain this? I doubt it going forward. Because I look at the NFC, and right now I would say the Giants are probably the 3rd best team in their division. So you're looking at a wild card. I highly doubt they can win the division right now. So they're likely looking at a wild card spot in the NFC. And right now, Philly and Dallas are going to be probably the top 2 teams in the NFC East. Then you got Minnesota and Green Bay competing in the North. The South, I'm not sure there's going to be a second playoff team in the mix. In the NFC West, the Rams are going to be in the mix. The Niners are going to be in the mix. Maybe the Cardinals or the Seahawks, depending on how the rest of the season goes. So I just look at the rest of the NFC, and the NFC is not that strong. But I look at the rest of the NFC, and yeah, they beat Green Bay, but I'm like, play that in Lambeau, Green Bay wins. Play that in the States, Green Bay might still win. And then Minnesota, one of those teams is going to win that division. I think the other is going to get a wild card. Same in the NFC East. One of those, Philly or Dallas is probably going to win the division. The other's getting a wild card. So that leaves one wild card spot, and you're competing with LA, San Francisco, maybe a team from the NFC South. I don't know. And that's one spot. Your odds aren't great to get that one spot if you're the Giants. So still don't really know what to make of them. Buffalo and Pittsburgh beat down. Buffalo won by 35. I wasn't convinced that was going to be a blowout. Just because a 14-point spread is huge in the NFL. That's one of the biggest I've ever seen. Largest, I don't know what's the terminology there, but one of the biggest spreads I've ever seen. I think the biggest I've ever seen is 19 points. This was around 14. So I was like, man, that's a big number. And, Mike Tomlin's a good coach, but they won by 35. Bills won by 35. Very surprising. But didn't feel like a good matchup for the Steelers. Buffalo has a really good defensive front. Steelers don't have a good offensive line. Then they were starting a rookie quarterback on top of it. Not a great decision, I thought, by Tomlin. I would have tried to give, Pickett his first start against a team where they probably have a better chance of winning or at home. Didn't really understand the need to move on. I mean, as far as I know, Trubisky's not hurt. I know that my friend Ryan came on the podcast early in the week and, was really critical of Trubisky, and I understand that. But unless he's hurt, I don't understand to switch to Pickett so quickly. But Chargers at the Browns. Chargers barely escape with a win. Win's a win in the NFL. I understand that. But this is back-to-back weeks now where the Chargers have won against lesser competition. They've played Houston and Cleveland on the road and picked up 2 wins, and they were both struggle wins. I don't think I put the Chargers in my top 10 in my power rankings this week just because I was that mad at Green Bay, but I didn't want to do it. I don't think this team is really that good. Oh, great. Here we go. Second half starting. And they do have some injuries, but I really don't think the Chargers are that good right now. As for the Browns, I had heard before the season that the Browns had the easiest 6-game stretch to start the year, which was huge because they don't have Deshaun Watson for the first 11 games of the season. So as many the more wins they could get in these first 6 games was huge for them. But here they are 2-3. I'm not 100% convinced they're going to win this week. And if they don't, that's 2-4. You're 3-3 at best. I really think they were hoping for more from Brissett and this team while, in these first 6 games while Watson is suspended. And now, you're 3-3 at best. The schedule's about to kick up here in a bit. Then you got, over a month of a tough schedule and still Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, who's not horrible, but still. Then Deshaun Watson comes back. I feel like this season's starting to slip for them. Bears at Vikings. Vikings are another team I'm not really that impressed with. They've won. They torched Green Bay in week 1, but they haven't looked anywhere near close to that team ever since. They got torched in week 2 against Philly. Then they've now won 3 games in a row, but they've come, I think, by a combined 14 points. They could easily be, 1-4 at this point. So hang on, I'm watching the Mountaineers. I don't understand that decision, but okay. I just the Vikings really have an opportunity here, though, to open up this division. They essentially have a 2-game lead on Green Bay right now because they own the head-to-head, and they have they're up 1 game in the standings. So the Vikings have an opportunity here to really, spread out this lead, and they don't act like they want to do it right now. But I do like their matchup this week, so we'll see how that goes. The Bears are really bad. I mean, nothing much else really to say. Lions at the Patriots. This game went, I didn't expect the Patriots to win 29-0, but I had a feeling a game like this was coming because you saw glimpses of it when New England played Green Bay, that New England, Belichick was just going to try to lean on the run game, ugly the game up as much as possible, and just win, by a few points, just try to keep them in the game as long as possible, win ugly sort of deal. I wouldn't classify this as win ugly, but it was the same kind of blueprint. Obviously, they played excellent defensively, holding Detroit to scoreless, but New England leaned heavily on the run game. In their last 4 games, I think they've rushed for over 600 yards. and are averaging close to 5 yards per attempt, so that's huge for them. The Lions, not a great performance, obviously, and I feel like that's kind of telling of Dan Campbell, and I like Dan Campbell. I think he's a better coach than people think. I think he gets this perception as a meathead, and I think he's way more intelligent than people give him credit for. But not a great showing in that game, and that was kind of sort of a game that you needed to win. At least to have a good year. I mean, you're 1-4 right now. You're out. I do believe that Detroit has a good offense, but defensively they're terrible. And some of that isn't his fault. That's just what they inherited. Seahawks at Saints. Saints win 39-32. This one surprised me. Seattle's defense, though, is really bad. I did pick Seattle to win, though. But their defense is terrible. Geno Smith is playing well, though. New Orleans, I mean, they always play well at home. I'm not totally shocked. I went out on a limb and picked Seattle, but New Orleans always plays well at home. But injuries are starting to pile up for them. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to win very many games going forward. Miami at the Jets. Hang on, I messed this up. Miami at the Jets. The Jets dominated the game, but Miami was already down 2 at Tagovailoa. Jacoby Brissett got hurt during the game. So, I mean, the Jets win basically came against a third-string quarterback. I mean, that's what you really should do against a third-string quarterback. So, again, the Jets, not really sure what to make of them, but I'll get to that here in a bit when I give my picks. Miami, I just think they need to stay healthy. Get Tua back, and I think they'll be okay. So, but I think in regards to this past week, throw it in the trash. It really doesn't matter because Skylar Thompson isn't your starting quarterback. So I just say burn the tape and move on. Try to get Tua back healthy. Falcons at the Bucks. Bucks won by 6. So Falcons still are hanging in there. They're 5-0 against the spread this season, which is, I don't put a ton of value in what your record is against the spread. I'm not a gambling man. But I do think that that's something. They're clearly better than what people expected, which I said in the preseason was going to happen. But I feel like the final score of this game is a little misleading. Tampa Bay, I'm pretty sure, was up 21-7 at one point. Let me pull up. Yeah, so they were going into the fourth quarter. They were up 21 to 0. 21-0. I thought it was 21-7, but it was 21-0 entering the fourth quarter. So Tampa Bay really controlled the game, and that's why I feel like the final score is misleading because Atlanta just scored 2 times in the fourth quarter and had a chance to win at the end of the game. Horrible call, I thought, on Grady Jarrett for roughing the passer. And there was another horrible call on the Kansas City Monday night game, but just it was terrible. It was a terrible call, but you really shouldn't have been in the game, Atlanta. Like, you were down 21-0. Should have been a lot worse. You really didn't have any business winning the game, in my opinion. Not to sound harsh, that's just a fact. I wouldn't go complaining about the refs when that's the case. Titans at Commanders. Titans win. They now dig themselves out of a hole. They started the season 0-2. They're now 3-2. AFC South, wide open. Tennessee, I think Tennessee is starting to get some momentum and look like the best team in that division. Indianapolis, though, doesn't look that good. Jacksonville has slid, which that's the next game I'm going to recap. But Tennessee all of a sudden back to, I think, being the top team in the AFC South. Washington, really bad. They've lost 4 in a row since week 1. Carson Wentz looks terrible. They can't keep him upright, and that's not going to bode well. If you can't keep Carson Wentz upright, he's going to turn the ball over if he's facing pressure. So I don't think it's going to get much better for Washington. If they can't keep him upright, he's going to turn the ball over, which is going to lead to them losing, which is going to lead to Ron Rivera getting fired. Texans at Jags. Texans somehow won 13-6. Man, what happened to the Jags? I was excited that the Jags were, looked kind of good, and after that, beating up on the Chargers and going to starting 2-1, they have now. They have now fallen to 2-3. And I'm a little disappointed to see that. I was, once the Jags started hot, I was hoping that they would be a surprise team. And they still kind of are. I'm not giving up on them. It's been a tough 2 games, but and I think they have a bye week this week. So let's get right, Jags. Let's get right and come back out of the bye week on a high note. 49ers at Panthers. Matt Rule now fired. Not really surprising. We knew this was likely going to happen because his tenure in Carolina has not been good. I think he's won, before entering the season, I think he had won 10 games in 2 years. They've won 2 games, I think, this year. Got blown up by the Niners. We knew it was coming. I'm not surprised it was this early. I didn't really think he'd last the year, honestly. You could tell that the ownership, David Tepper, was getting frustrated. I had high hopes for David Tepper when he got the ownership in Carolina, but it's just been one misstep after another with him. He hired Matt Rule, which I kind of liked at the time. Was thinking outside the box. He gave him a 7-year contract. I thought he was in this for the long haul. Tepper was. He was willing to just build with Matt Rule, see how it went. And then here we are 2.5 years later, not even 2.5 years later, and he fires the head coach. They try to get an indoor practice facility built. That gets blown up. Not a huge fan of David Tepper right now after I liked him when he first, bought the team. But Carolina, just not in a good space. They will probably be in the running for the number 1 overall pick, if I were to guess. San Francisco, they're really good. They've looked really good the last 2 weeks after struggling against Denver a couple weeks ago. Granted, competition's been bad, but San Francisco looking like a really strong team. I'm not surprised. Dallas at the Rams, beatdown. Final score really wasn't that bad. It was only 22-10, but Dallas controlled that game. I think during the game they had a block punt for a touchdown, and I think the Rams turned the ball over a couple more times after that. Rams don't look good. The Rams have a lot of issues, and I don't know how they're going to correct it. If they're facing a really good pass rush, I think the Rams are in trouble because their offensive line can't hold up. And which that affects Stafford because Stafford, has to get rid of the ball quicker, or they have to rely on him more to throw the ball because they can't run the ball, and you don't want Stafford throwing the ball too many times, as we've seen the last few weeks. The Rams are just out of sorts. I think Sean McVay is going to figure it out, and they will get back to a winning, respectable form. But right now they're a mess, and I don't know how to fix it because you're not going to get a great offensive lineman at the trade deadline. I don't think so, at least. I could be wrong. Dallas, though, I got to hang on, I'm watching the game. I got to tip my hat to Mike McCarthy and Cooper Rush. I did not see this coming. They've now won 4 games in a row. They look really strong defensively, which I also did not see coming. I still question their secondary, but Micah Parsons looks like the defensive player of the year, and that's helping that defense a lot. Philly at Arizona, didn't watch the game, but struggle win for Philly, only won 20-17. Jalen Hurts didn't play all that well. Let me pull up his numbers. He was 26 for 36, not horrible, but no touchdowns. Sacked twice. Threw the ball, looks like 239 yards. Not a great game from him. But I think he also ran for 15. He ran the ball 15 times. Yeah. He should not be running the ball that many times. Look, I understand having a mobile quarterback is valuable, and he is very mobile, and he's, exceeded my expectations this year and is pretty talented of a player, but he should not be running the ball 15 times. I think that's a recipe for disaster in the NFL because he's not Lamar Jackson. He's not that shifty. So I wouldn't be doing that. Oh boy, touchdown, West Virginia. Great. They're going to give me hope. Cardinals, I don't really have anything bad to say about the Cardinals. They lose, but could have won the game. Really, I don't know about should have won the game, but they had a chance to tie and send it to overtime. And they missed the kick at the end of regulation. So, I shouldn't be all that surprised, I guess. I mean, you're going to have close games like this. Arizona was desperate. Philly wasn't. Arizona has one more week until DeAndre Hopkins comes back. They really need to win this week. I'm not sure they're going to do it, though. I don't remember their matchup, but I think I picked against them. Bengals at Ravens. Justin Tucker's money. Bengals aren't in the best shape offensively. They are near the bottom of the NFL in yards per play, and I don't think that's been talked about enough. They're really struggling offensively, although their offensive line has been better the last couple of weeks, keeping Joe Burrow upright. You know, he was sacked something like 15 times in the first 2 weeks. The last 3 weeks, though, I think that number has gone down significantly. But so that's encouraging at least. But they have other problems. I saw something today about Jamar Chase's route running. Apparently hasn't been great. Defensive, their defense is keeping them in a lot of games right now. I think they're going to get better offensively, but I'm also not sold on Zach Taylor as a head coach, so it might not get much better than this. So we'll see. But the Ravens, I think, are the better team. Lamar Jackson didn't have his best game, but he played well enough. They're looking like the best team in this division. Monday Night Football. Raiders-Chiefs. The Raiders are like Raiders are 1-4, but I'm not willing to give up on them. They have looked good the last 2 weeks. They got their first win last week. They were up 17-0 against the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs just took over the game. I think the Raiders are going to be okay. Granted, it's going to be difficult for them to make the playoffs at this rate, but I will say, Denver looks bad, so they could easily finish third. I'm not sold on the Chargers either. They're still in the thick of this race in the AFC West. And if you finish second in the AFC West, I feel pretty good that you're going to make the playoffs. So I'm not giving up on the Raiders. They've looked a whole lot better the last 2 weeks. I think they're going to be okay going forward. So Chiefs are really good. Travis Kelce had his Al Bundy game, scored 4 touchdowns. That's incredible. He's on my fantasy team, by the way. Chiefs are really good. I swear to goodness, there was a commercial just now where it was a basketball commercial, and he throws the ball at the screen, and the ball goes to the camera, and it made me oh god. So it just threw me off there for a second, scared me. Yeah, Chiefs are really good. They got a huge matchup this weekend against Buffalo. So let's switch over to college football. Not a whole lot happened. Michigan had a struggle win with Indiana. Actually, hang on. Let me take a beer break right now. For those, actually, I don't think you can see it on camera. For those that can't see, it says, the West Virginia logo, and it says shot glass underneath. This was in my grandparents' house when they died. Good grief, that's such soft tackling. God, this team sucks. And when we cleaned it out, we saw this, and it was in this stage where, it was hey, who which family members want this stuff? Which family members want this stuff? And once I saw this, I was like, I gotta have this. And I've brought it up quite a few times. And just this year. They throw a flag on that face mask? I don't know. Maybe they missed it. Looks like they missed it. Michigan, Indiana. Struggle win for the Wolverines. I wonder if Mike Hart's health issues before the game had a factor in that. Maybe. Tennessee and LSU. That was a beatdown by Tennessee. I am really impressed with the job Josh Heupel has done at Tennessee. They can score points, I think, on just about anybody. LSU, I'm not worried about LSU. I think Brian Kelly is going to right the ship. We knew this was going to be a trying year for LSU, and I didn't expect that kind of performance from Tennessee. But if you're LSU, you it's a first year. Just don't worry about it. But obviously, you would like to have a better performance than what they just gave. Tennessee. Still got Tennessee on the brain. TCU beat Kansas. I picked Kansas. Kansas almost won the game. TCU keeps proving me wrong. Granted, this game did come against a backup quarterback, although the backup quarterback didn't really play poorly. So I feel like that's, if you just say, well, it was against backup quarterback. Yeah, but I watched the game. The backup quarterback played pretty well. So it's not like, they played some scrub. And you can usually tell when a player's a scrub. And he didn't seem like a scrub for Kansas, whoever the backup quarterback was. But TCU looks solid. I got to admit when I'm wrong. I don't know if I'm ready to say that they're the second best team in the Big 12. We'll know this week when they take on Oklahoma State, and I'll pick that game here in a bit. But I'll tip the cap to Sonny Dykes. He has proved me wrong every which way this year. I've picked against the Horned Frogs quite a few times and have had to eat crow, so I'm addressing it right now. I was wrong about TCU. I think that they are legit. They look like a team that's going to finish in the top half of the Big 12. Kansas, though, hopefully Jalen Daniels. Is it Jalen Daniels? I think it's Jalen Daniels. I get him and Jaden Daniels. I think it's Jaden Daniels, the quarterback for LSU, confused all the time. I think they're going to be okay as long as Daniels is healthy. Mississippi State beat up on Arkansas. Mississippi State has to be the most underrated team in the country. They're good. They're solid defensively. Will Rogers can sling it. Of course, Mike Leach we know is a pretty good coach. I think Mississippi State's right there in the SEC West. Granted, Alabama's Alabama. They're going to be at the top, I would imagine. But, I think that Egg Bowl between Ole Miss and Mississippi State is going to probably decide second place in the SEC West. I don't know where that game is this year. I want to say it's Starkville. But, yeah, I think those are maybe the second, those teams are going to be fighting for second. Sorry, I got the game going on. I got alerts on my phone. I think those teams are going to be fighting for second place in the SEC West, and that's quite the accomplishment. What else we got? Georgia beat up on Auburn. Man, I thought Brian Harsin was going to, I don't know about work out at Auburn, but I respected Auburn's decision to go after a guy with a proven track record, which, say what you want about Brian Harsin, he had a winning track record at Boise State. He had won at least 9 games, I think, every single year. One of the few years he didn't was the COVID year. So I thought it was a, underrated move or hire, and it just has not worked out. Fan base is upset. I got a lot of Auburn fans ready for him to move on, and he has made mistakes with personnel. I'm still shocked he didn't go after a better quarterback in the transfer portal this past offseason. Maybe tried and just couldn't do it. But I'm not sure he's going to last the year. Oklahoma State beat Texas Tech closer than I expected it to be. Oklahoma State won by 10. UCLA beat Utah. Okay, I guess UCLA is here to stay. I didn't know what to make of them because their out of conference was so weak, and I think their only conference wins, one was against Colorado. I don't even know who the second one was, so I really had no idea what to make of UCLA. So I went ahead and picked Utah. UCLA proved me wrong. Good for Chip Kelly, I suppose. They look legit. Does this mean they're going to win the Pac-12? I doubt it. But they're in a good spot right now. I don't know who else they play, but they're up on Utah already in the standings, and I don't know if they can beat USC. So they're sitting pretty right now, and I think they got Oregon this week. And is it this week? I thought I read that. Maybe not. I feel like I would have included that in my picks if that was the case. But UCLA looks really good. Utah, I had high hopes for Utah. I'll be honest, most of the offseason I thought picking them to make the playoff was a stretch. Just they're one of the top programs in the country, but they're not Bama or Ohio State or Georgia. So I kind of went out on a limb there. Some people talked me into it, and I did it. I'm not shocked that they already have 2 losses. Jesus Christ. Can we not play? We can't stop a call defensively. I swear to goodness. I'm not shocked Utah already has 2 losses. I think they're going to be okay. We'll know against USC this week. Ohio State beat up on Michigan State. Clemson beat up on Boston College. USC beat Washington State. I'm not that surprised. South Carolina surprisingly beat Kentucky, but I think Will Levis didn't play the game. Not a whole lot else. Kansas State, I'm not quite sure what to make of the Wildcats. That's a flag. God almighty. West Virginia, I swear. They drive me nuts. I hate watching this team. I loathe watching this team. I really do. Kansas State at Iowa State. Final score was only 10-9. I don't know what to make of Kansas State. I thought they arrived and was going to be a force to be reckoned with when they beat Oklahoma, but that loss now, or that win all of a sudden doesn't look as good now. Oklahoma's struggling. And now they're only beating Iowa State by 1 point by a score of 10-9. I know that game's in Ames, and Ames is a weird place to play, but again, not really sure what to make of Kansas State right now. Alabama struggle win against A&M. That might be enough to save Jimbo Fisher's job there. But Bryce Young didn't play, which I didn't even know that was in question when I picked the game. But yeah, I'm not totally surprised at that. Backup, you never know what you're going to get with a backup quarterback, but apparently the backup didn't play that well in this game, obviously, or else Bama would have won by more. NC State barely beat Florida State. Florida State kind of coming back to earth a little bit after, beating LSU in week 1, which no one really saw coming. And then, they got out to they won a few games there to start the season. And then, again, I feel like they're starting to come back down to earth. They lost to Wake Forest, 2 weeks ago. They lost to NC State last week. This is more what I expected from Florida State. I still think they're a much improved team. I think Mike Norvell has that program heading in the right direction, though. Okay. So let's get into my picks. Of course, they're going to review for targeting. Got to review for targeting. All right, so Thursday night in the NFL. On my blog, I picked the Commanders to beat the Bears. It is currently still 0-0. Deep into the second quarter. God, I don't know if I'm more happy to not watch that game and watch this game or what. West Virginia is currently tied, although I think that's about to change here in a bit because Baylor's got the ball and is near the goal line. But it's tied, and I still hate watching this team. But I picked the Commanders, and we'll see if I'm right with this Thursday night game. 49ers at the Falcons. Falcons aren't very good at stopping the run. We know with Kyle Shanahan. Hang on, I'm watching the game. Targeting ejection. Good grief. 49ers at the Falcons. Falcons, again, don't stop the run. Don't do a very good job of stopping the run defensively. We know with Kyle Shanahan that he loves to run the ball effectively, have a physical, imposing rushing attack. This doesn't feel like a good matchup for Atlanta. I'll be surprised if they're still in this game right now. The spread is Niners minus 5.5. I'll be surprised if this is a one possession game late in the fourth quarter. Patriots at Browns. Browns are minus 2.5. I went back and forth on this one. I feel like New England has found a little bit of a rhythm offensively the last few weeks. They're just going to run the ball. They're going to ugly the game up. Jacoby Brissett used to play for Belichick, so I think Belichick knows how to attack him. So I'm going with the Patriots here, but I don't feel that good about it. Jets at Packers. Right now, Packers are minus 7.5. I'm worried about this game a little bit as a Packers fan. I don't know how this team is going to respond coming off a trip to London, and I feel like like a hangover might be coming. With the jet lag and everything like that. The Jets 3-2. I understand all the optimism with this team, but their 3 wins have come against 3. I think 2 bad teams and a backup quarterback. Or, a third-string quarterback. So, I don't know what the Jets are either. So, with the game in Lambeau, I'm going to go with the Packers. Jags at Colts. I'm going to go with the Colts. They're a 2-point favorite right now. Don't like the way the Jags have been playing the last 2 weeks. Colts have more time to prepare. I think Frank Reich has a record of 6-2 when he has more time to prepare. So, again, another one. Not that confident in it, but I'll go with the Colts. Vikings at Dolphins. It's already been announced Tua Tagovailoa is not playing, and neither is Teddy Bridgewater. So Skylar Thompson's going to make his first start this week. Don't know what to expect. Don't think he's that good. I mean, this is a 7th-round rookie, kind of being thrown to the wolves here. Kind of a break, I think, for Minnesota, a team that hasn't been playing that well the last few weeks. And honestly, they've made the announcements for Tagovailoa and Bridgewater. The line is still Vikings -3, so Vegas doesn't have a lot of faith in the Vikings right now. So I'm going with the Vikings to win and cover. I feel like they should cover at least. Bengals at Saints. Right now, the Bengals are -1.5. Don't think the Saints are that good. I think they've sustained too many injuries as a team. Cincinnati has the better quarterback. Their defense is playing well. Feel like the Bengals should win this game, but New Orleans is a tough place to play. Ravens at Giants. Again, same thing with the Packers, same thing with the Giants as with the Packers. Do they have a little bit of a hangover coming off the game from London? They just got a huge win, probably their biggest win in years for the Giants. Do they come out a little flat for this game? I think it's possible. But even if the Giants didn't have all that going against them, I would still pick Baltimore to win this game. Baltimore is a 5.5-point favorite right now. Lamar Jackson's playing really well. They got the better coach. Defensively they're not great, but they're all right. So I'm going to go with the Ravens. Bucks at Steelers. Bucks right now are -8. Big number. Never know what's going to happen on the road. Again, I feel like Pittsburgh is going to string some wins together eventually. Doesn't feel like it's going to be this week. This feels like a really bad matchup for them. Tampa Bay's got a really good defense in general, but a really good defensive front. Pittsburgh's offensive line isn't very good. Kenny Pickett, rookie quarterback. This could get ugly for Pittsburgh. Panthers at Rams. Rams are -10. You never know with these teams, especially in the NFL, how they're going to respond after a head coach gets fired. Sometimes I would honestly argue probably most of the time, these teams come out, excited and ready to play, with some rejuvenation with a new coach after the old one gets canned during the season. And I think that could happen here. And the Rams aren't that good of a team right now. I don't know what makes you think that the Rams are going to win and cover, a 10-point spread. So I'll go with the Panthers to cover the spread, but I do think the Rams will win. Cardinals at Seahawks. I'm surprised. Cardinals are -2.5 right now. I don't trust Kyler Murray to go on the road without DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray has not played well this year. I do not trust him to go on the road and beat Seattle, even though Seattle's defense has struggled. Geno Smith is the better quarterback. Pete Carroll is the better head coach. Seattle's a tough place to play. This feels like a game the Seahawks should win. Bills at Chiefs. Actually, I'll do that one last. Cowboys at Eagles. Right now, it's Eagles -6.5. I think the Cowboys are going to cover the spread, but I will pick the Eagles to win. I think the Eagles' defensive front poses a lot of problems for Dallas's offensive line and Cooper Rush, but something tells me the Cowboys keep it close. Monday Night Football: Broncos at the Chargers. Chargers right now are -4.5. I don't have any confidence in the Broncos to win this game. Good fucking grief. West Virginia. 4th and goal, and they give up a touchdown. Jesus Christ. All right, Monday Night Football. Don't have any confidence in either the Broncos or the Chargers, but I have less faith in the Broncos right now, even though they have more time to prepare for this game. They're horrible offensively. Chargers aren't great defensively, but they should be able to hold up against the Broncos offense, which isn't playing well. Chargers have the better quarterback, and much better quarterback right now, and Justin Herbert. Feels like a game the Chargers should win. If they don't, I think Brandon Staley is in major trouble. All right, game of the week. Bills at the Chiefs. Bills are minus 2.5 right now. I went back and forth with this all week. You probably should go with the home team here, but I'm not. I'm going to go with the Bills. I think Kansas City's defense is a problem. I don't buy their defense. I think, in a game where you're probably going to have a lot of points, it's probably going to come down to which team has the better defense. I think Buffalo does. I think Buffalo's defensive front will be able to get after Mahomes. So and on top of that, Josh Allen is playing better than Mahomes. Not by much, but he is playing better than Mahomes. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Bills, and those are my NFL picks. Let me switch over to college real quick. I hate this team. I hate this program right now. All right. Number 10, Penn State at number 5, Michigan. Actually, hang on. Let me take some beer real quick. Fat Tire, so good. Number 10, Penn State at number 5, Michigan. Michigan is minus 7. If this game was in State College, I'd consider the upset. I think Penn State's rushing attack poses a lot of problems for Michigan's defense. Michigan has not been challenged. Well, I shouldn't say that. They have been challenged since playing teams with a pulse like Maryland and Indiana, and I forget who the other team was after the out-of-conference. But in conference play, they have been challenged a little bit, and Michigan has not looked as formidable as they did in the out-of-conference, which makes sense because their out-of-conference was like it was Colorado State and UConn and Hawaii. Incredibly weak. With the game in Ann Arbor, I'm going to take Michigan, but I think Penn State keeps it within the spread. Minnesota at Illinois. I'm very surprised by the line of this game. Minnesota is minus 6.5 right now. I'm going to go with Minnesota. Don't know what to make of Illinois just yet. Haven't watched them. Haven't really played anybody. I don't really believe in their offense. Both teams playing really good defense this season. I'm going to give the advantage to Minnesota, though. They're coming off a bye week. I think P.J. Fleck is the better head coach. Give me the Gophers. Hang on. So that's 2... I'm pulling it up on my blog. I do this every week. I pull it up in ESPN. Don't remember which games I picked. And I end up pulling it up on my blog. Okay. Now we're cooking. All right, number 8, Oklahoma State at number 13, TCU. Right now it's TCU minus 4. I don't like to keep picking against TCU. But I don't think this is a good matchup for them. Oklahoma State, I think, is the better and more physical team and the deeper team. I think their defensive front could give TCU's offensive line, which isn't that good, a lot of problems, which will then impact the way Max Duggan throws the ball. I don't think TCU is going to be as effective offensively because of this, so give me Oklahoma State to win. NC State at Syracuse. Gonna go. It's not really an upset. Syracuse is the favorite, minus 3.5. I'm gonna go with Syracuse. I don't feel good about it, but NC State's offense is not playing well. This is a road trip. The Wolfpack are averaging 25.6 points per game against FBS competition. Syracuse has played well defensively, especially at home. Hang on, I'm watching the game. Okay, I don't know what that was. All right, back to this game. NC State at Syracuse. Syracuse minus 3.5. NC State's offense has not played well this year. Syracuse has been playing well defensively. It's at Syracuse. Probably going to be a low-scoring game, which I think favors the Orange. So I will go with Syracuse. Arkansas, BYU. Don't think Arkansas is in a great spot as a program right now. They've lost, I think, 3 games in a row. Maybe 3 out of 4. KJ Jefferson is hurt. Lavelle Edwards Stadium, one of the toughest places to play in college football. Altitude's a problem. Give me BYU. Don't think it'll be a blowout. I'm surprised Arkansas is the favorite, though, in this game at -1.5. Feels like too many variables going against Arkansas, though. Give me BYU. LSU at Florida. Don't really know what to make of either of these teams. Both are kind of in the same boat. Programs that with first-year head coaches still getting the gist of things. Florida, though, has a really talented defensive front, and I think that's going to be a problem for LSU's offensive line, which has struggled this year. And Florida has the better quarterback with Anthony Richardson, and it's at home. I'll go with the Gators. Number 4, Clemson at Florida State. Clemson -3.5. Again, I feel like we've seen more – the last couple of weeks, we've seen what Florida State probably is right now, which is, losing to Wake Forest and NC State. Games in Doak Campbell, never know what could happen. Florida State might surprise Clemson. But I like what I've seen from Clemson the last few weeks. I think they're finally finding their footing offensively. They're getting some momentum. I'm going to go with the Tigers, but I think it's going to be really close. Number 16, Mississippi State at number 22, Kentucky. Will Levis is going to play in this game for Kentucky, so that's good. However, it doesn't change my opinion. I'll take Mississippi State. Really like the way the Bulldogs are playing. They've beat teams in their last 3 games by a combined score of 127-55. They're slinging the ball around. I think that would be averaging close to 40 points per game in their last 3 games. Don't think Kentucky can outscore them. So give me Mike Leach. Number 7, USC at number 20, Utah. Tough one to predict. I went back and forth. I'm not giving up on Utah, though. Utah is favored, -3.5. Don't think USC is where it needs to be as a program in the trenches to win this game. Utah has great offensive line and defensive line play. I think Utah wins the line of scrimmage, which causes Caleb Williams to struggle, which causes USC's offense to not be as effective as it's been this season. Rice-Eccles Stadium's also a tough place to play. So I'm going to go with the Utes. Not ready to give up on them just yet. But this game has a lot a lot of implications, and I'm going with Kyle Whittingham. North Carolina at Duke. North Carolina's -7 right now. Duke's been a pleasant surprise. They're 4-2. They're actually playing somewhat well defensively. I don't think they're good enough offensively to win this game. North Carolina can score points. They're averaging 42.3 points per game this season and 6.7 yards per play. Even if Duke can slow them down a little bit offensively, I don't think that they can, they have the offense to outscore them, especially if this becomes a shootout. Give me the Tar Heels. Hang on, it's 3rd and 9. Let me see how they muck this up. All right, hang on. Are they going to hike it anytime soon? Looks like a run. Nope, I'm wrong. Well, I'll be. They got the first down. Okay. All right, Washington State at Oregon State. Underrated game here in the Pac-12, I feel like. Oregon State is -3.5 right now. I'm going to go with Washington State, though. Chance Nolan is questionable for this game, who's the quarterback for Oregon State. If he doesn't play, I think that's a problem for the Beavers. And a touchdown, great. Just when I start doubting this team. Washington State is a pretty good defensive team. They're only allowing around 20 points per game defensively. They also rank in the top 40 in third down defense. With a backup quarterback, I think it's going to be tough for the Beavers to score. I also think Washington State is going to have the quarterback advantage with Cameron Ward. I would feel better about this game if it was in Pullman, but it's in Corvallis. I'm still going to go with Washington State, though. So now we get to the game of the week. Number 3, Alabama at number 6, Tennessee. I'm not convinced Bryce Young's going to play. And even if he does play, I don't think he's going to be that effective. So I feel dumb for doing this, but I will go with Tennessee to win. I don't like picking against Nick Saban. I actually think this is the first time I have picked against Nick Saban in anything other than like the playoff or the SEC championship, or I think I picked him in every national championship that he's played in on my blog. So yeah, I've picked against Bama in the national championship and the playoff, and maybe a New Year's Six bowl, maybe the no, I know in the SEC championship because I did it last year. I think this is the first time I'm picking against them in the regular season. I couldn't tell you the last time I did that. I think Tennessee can pose a lot of problems for Alabama. This game's in Knoxville. The place is going to be electric. Tennessee, I think, can score on anybody. They're averaging 46.8 points per game, 7.1 yards per play. We saw against Texas, you can dice up this Alabama secondary if you really want, and I think Hendon and Hooker can do that. Tennessee's really explosive. I think this could be a bad matchup for Alabama. I feel dumb. Give me the Volunteers to win and an upset. So, those are my picks. I could wrap it up there. I'm going on an hour already. But I want to touch up on a couple things. I want to touch up on the Davante. Actually, let me drink some beer real quick. I want to touch up on the Davante Adams news. I love Davante Adams. I don't like that he's not playing in Green Bay anymore. However, the fact that his actions after the game have led to a misdemeanor charge against him is ridiculous. I don't know how you can do that as a person. Like, I've played football. You know, your emotions run high. And you know, for Davante Adams, they had the game, you know, arguably won. They were up 17-0. They let it slip. They lose. He's frustrated after the game. He's running hot, and he makes a mistake, and he pushes was it a photographer or someone? I don't even remember. But he pushes someone, kind of not violently, but he does push him. You know, get out of my way, kind of deal. And we can't cover a cold. I swear to goodness. And then the guy turns around and files a police report. I don't understand that. Just reeks of someone who hasn't played the game before. If it were me, I would be like, yeah, I would blame myself. Granted, I just have that kind of personality, but I would be blaming myself. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Adams. I shouldn't be in your way. Then I've seen people, blame the security of the Arrowhead Stadium. Good fucking grief. We can't stop anything. I've seen some people blame like the tunnel security and this should have been cleared out. I'm like, well, look, I'm all for defending Davante Adams, but that ain't the way to do it. Blaming security. No. Look, I love Davante Adams. He made a mistake. He should not have pushed the guy after the game. But the fact that this has come to a police report is laughable. I don't know how that man who filed the police report has any respect for himself. That's embarrassing. He shouldn't do it. I'm not even sure Davante Adams should be suspended for a game, which I think he is suspended for a game. He should have been fined. He even admitted after the game. He said an apology. If it were me, I would just been like, okay, like call me or something, or give me some memorabilia. I don't give a shit. I know how it works in football. Emotions run high. Davante Adams was pissed. You probably should not be in his way. But I don't excuse Davante Adams' actions. But the fact that this has gone to a misdemeanor police report and that he has been cited is ridiculous at this point. I also want to touch up on Dan Snyder. I haven't looked too much into it, so I don't know all the facts, but a report came out that he has dirt on the rest of the NFL, which would actually explain a lot. But I am obviously no fan of Dan Snyder. A lot of people aren't fans of Dan Snyder, who is the owner of the Washington Commanders. I think he's got a lot of issues. A lot of stuff has come out against the way he runs his organization. I believe that there were allegations of, mistreatment of women and just a plethora of other things within the last couple of years. And a lot of people have said that he shouldn't, and myself included, he should not own the team anymore. He should be forced to sell the team, and the NFL doesn't. And then a report came out that he is saying that he has dirt on everybody. I mean, that would actually make a lot of sense, but dude, you don't come out and say that. You know what I mean? So I should have probably looked into it a little bit more. Maybe I will this weekend. But I don't care what the NFL says. The NFL should get, or what Dan Snyder says, the NFL should get rid of him. He should not own a team. He's terrible. He's a terrible owner. And just look up all the investigations against him. It's just not a good place to work, and he's solely responsible for it. So, I think I'll leave it there. I'm going on an hour. I guess I got to continue watching this game, but it was good to talk to you all this week, or good to hear myself talk this week, I guess. Need to do a better job of trying to get James on the pod. I haven't reached out to him about talking on the podcast. I have talked to him this week and the previous weeks, but I have never asked him to come on the pod. It's just too much. I don't want to say it's too much, but it's hard with the time change and plans change like that with us, and it's difficult. I'm going to try to get him back on as soon as possible. But, yeah, I'll leave you with that. I got to go watch West Virginia probably lose this game, but I will see you all next week.